Step into the world of Founders Dinner. Stories of entrepreneurial wins, losses, and lessons. Where the essence of entrepreneurship is unraveled in its most authentic form. Stas Balanevsky serves as your guide on this journey of discovery and inspiration. In each episode, Stas brings together entrepreneurs from diverse backgrounds to share their stories. It's not just about their victories, but more about the resilience and adaptability they've shown in the face of adversity. These narratives are more than just stories. They are lessons in courage, determination, and the relentless pursuit of success. So whether you're an aspiring entrepreneur, dreaming of launching your first venture, or an established business leader seeking new perspectives, Founders Dinner is your invitation to explore the transformative power of entrepreneurship. And now, without further ado, let's welcome the host of Founders Dinner, Stas Balanevsky.
Welcome to the Founders Dinner podcast. I'm your host, Stas Balanevsky, and I have the pleasure of having Susan Duke as my guest today. How are you, Susan?
I'm doing great today. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. Thank you so much for coming.
Sure.
Really want to start with your entrepreneurial journey, right? We're all on a journey. So can you give me your story? Who are you? Where have you been? Where are you now? And where are you headed?
Sure. I'm an attorney, but I was raised in my mother's retail business. So I always had that desire to have something of my own like she did. But I went into law school, still interested, I went to undergrad, still interested in business, started out as a business admin major, really wasn't anything I was passionate about. It ended up in English and history, which kind of helped me to find my place that I wanted to go to law school, because I also wanted to do something that I felt was helping people beyond just running a business. And so that profession would allow me to eventually do both of those things. Right out of law school, I started out working for a firm in commercial litigation. Ended up going out on my own much sooner than I had intended, just out of need, that I wasn't getting any kind of mentorship within that firm setting, really wasn't learning or doing the things that I thought I'd enjoy doing as an attorney. So I just went out on my own, started out just myself with a home office. Read at the time, there wasn't the internet wasn't available to gain all those resources. There weren't as many coaches or business advisors as there are now that you can readily find. So I read every book I could find on how to build a law practice, how to run a business, and just hit go. Started up, all my startup expenses were on credit cards. After reading the How to Start a Law Firm book, it said that's what you do when no one will give you financing, with a plan to pay them off in your first year. Fortunately for me, by following every one of those steps in the books I read, 2 weeks in, my phone started ringing. 6 weeks, moved out of my home office, hired an assistant, and it just went from there. And I was able to build 6 weeks. 6 weeks, the phone was ringing. I had clients, and I was able to hire someone. So wow. It was better than expected. My credit card debt was paid off in 3 months. I was able to get a loan to buy a building for my office from a bank about 18 months later. So everything just went fast forward from there. I stayed on that path for a while, where I started hiring more people, had a couple other attorneys working for me. And then things started to get chaotic, very chaotic in there. And I didn't really do the research at that point about how do you sustain a business that's growing? What do you do? How do you manage that business? And my children were young. I decided I'd go back to safety, which was just myself and a couple of assistants. So I went back to that, was very happy in that role for many years, and basically just stayed there the same way until 2020. And that's really when things changed. But that was my trajectory until 2020.
That's amazing. So how many years out of law school were you in solo practice?
I was one 1 year out of law school and just a little over 1 year in solo
Okay,
practice.
so you're what, 25?
25, yes, 25, almost 26 years old. So that's when I started in solo practice, which of course I had a big thing to overcome in age. When a
Yeah.
lot of clients would meet with me,
So
would want to know how old I was, how many years experience I had, and I became very good at diverting attention from my age because I'm glad now that I didn't look old for my age then. I hate to think what I'd look like now if I had. But really at the time I looked more like 20 than 25. So it was a huge thing, but it was really just being seen in court a lot that helped me a lot. There were judges that I reached out to. It was really having no ego in it. I just went to everyone that I saw and asked for help, asked other attorneys I didn't know, help. I don't know anything. How do I do
awesome.
this? And I got referrals from other attorneys because of that. They said, yeah, I have this case. I hate it, but if you're young and starving, maybe you want it. Things like that. Judges that said, come sit in my courtroom and learn. And that's what I did. So every second I wasn't directly meeting with a client, I was sitting in some judge's courtroom, which I think helped people recognize me. People would come into court unrepresented, see me sitting there and hire me, things like that. So it helped a lot having asking a lot of questions just across the board. What should I do? How do I do it?
That is an awesome nugget for a new entrepreneur to have no ego and
Right.
just go ask.
Right. And even ask your competitors. It's a surprisingly friendly world out there where people want to help other people and help them do well, even if you're, in essence, their competition. I was asking basically my competitors,
Mm-hmm.
how do I be a good attorney? How do I survive? And I think everyone wants to see other people do well. And as a beer lover, and I know Steph, that you're a beer lover as well. I always look at the breweries and all the collaborations they do and how they want their competitors to survive. It's a community. It's the same thing, I think, for any kind of business owner, whether you're an attorney or you're in a specific area of retail business. Your competitors are doing the same things, having the same experiences, and you want to help each other. That's always been my experience.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's interesting with my community of EOS implementers, we always talk about that abundance mindset, that the moment you go to scarcity and you believe that it's a zero sum game, it all falls apart. But if you're generous and you believe in abundance, then everybody wins.
Well, it's always been my belief that good businesses will survive with or without competition. Those that are doing the right thing, they'll be recognized. People want the best in the business, but there's room for more than one of you to be good. And people want to have choices. They don't want to have just one person that they have to default to. So it's a great thing to use your community to learn from, because those have gone before you know a lot more than you do for sure. I can offer a lot better advice than I could 20 years ago, but I do have good things to share now at this point in my career.
Yeah, you sure do. That's why you're on this podcast. So
Correct.
so now that brings us to 2020, right? So in 2020, you're still solo.
In 2020, I was solo, and it was that complacency that I talked about really hit me over the head in 2020. It was just myself, and I even said, I can cut back even further and just be, and not have to have that burden of extra employees. Just me and my longtime assistant that I know, my ride or die. She'd been with me, since a couple years into my practice. So just go down to the person that I know like the back of my hand and me. That's simple and easy. And then COVID hits, and suddenly I am deemed non-essential. And I was non-essential for quite a while and wasn't allowed to work, essentially. I'm a litigator, so if you can't litigate and you can't file cases, what work do you have? And suddenly it was just almost zero work, and realizing that as hairdressers became essential and I still was non-essential, things were looking bleak, and looking at am I really going to lose my business and my private practice after all these years and all this work? And it was just time to stop being complacent and looking at change and looking at changing the nature of my practice completely. So I had to do a complete pivot in 2020. I had all this time on my hands. What am I going to do with it? That was a question. I could sit here and just let everything go down the tubes and go to work for someone else, do something else. But I decided everyone's at home right now. Might as well just throw everything I have left into online marketing and getting my house in order so that I'm ready to take on a bunch of people once this ends. Whenever this ends, I want to be ready to go. And what I found was suddenly when the courts were open and I was allowed to start filing things, I already had all these lists, this long list of clients that are waiting for me. And we had more work than we could ever possibly imagine. So I just went into hiring mode and gone through from there, from just myself and one employee to where it's myself and 16 employees now.
That's fabulous. You know, it's being resilient, and when the whole world hit the skids, it was very important to show your grit, which you have an abundance of.
Right. Well, there were weeks of just feeling sorry for myself for sure. there were those weeks where I'm sitting at home doing absolutely nothing except for watching bad TV and feeling sorry for myself as doing nothing and wondering why I'm not making any money. So it was time to change that.
Yeah, you are a serial pragmatist, so good for you for figuring that out. So I'd love to get into some stories. I'd love to get into some storytelling because I know with COVID, it didn't go smoothly. I'm sure there were other things that maybe weren't external, but maybe internal. So I'm looking for a story from you on a stumble, a misstep, that major wrong turn that you took on your entrepreneurial journey. I'd love to.
Right. So it has to do with two things. One, that complacency that I mentioned, that not willing to, inability to change suddenly when needed, and to always be looking for positive changes. I think that not doing that in the past has been problematic. Hiring employees where I made mistakes and not just realizing it right away, being able to pivot and hire and replace. And that's really how I downsized originally, was I don't want to deal with employee issues. So these employees are gone and now I don't have any employee issues instead of being ready to pivot. But it's really about not being willing to adapt to that change. That's been the most difficult thing, is realizing that I had to do that, constantly looking to be at the forefront of not just staying ahead of problems, but keeping my business at as much as it can be state of the art in terms of technology, business practices, doing all of those types of things. So that, and not trusting my gut. I've hired a couple of employees based on referrals from other people, said this person is great. If you, the person who's running the business, has any misgivings, they always play out. That's what has been my experience. So I've had some employees that were either just not right to fit or absolute nightmares, that everything, all of my red flags that I had, that I ignored, 100% came full fold as they were working for me. And those are very, very expensive mistakes to go through, training and onboarding people and trying to work with them, having them cause negativity to people who were happy in their positions before this person came in. So that has been a real learning curve for me, that if I have any misgivings, I just don't hire them, no matter what our need is. It's much worse to hire the wrong person than to not fill the role.
That's awesome. I hear so many entrepreneurs as they mature in their journey that they're just like, yeah, I got to trust my gut more, because there's something there. Like when you look at Simon Sinek, right? And the golden circles, the why, the how, and the what.
Right.
Right. And you look at your biology, right? That why, right, that lizard brain that says danger. and you choose to ignore it, eventually does come back to bite you.
It always does. And you can't take someone else's opinion in your business. You could take someone's advice and think about it, but you can't hire based on what someone else thinks that it would be good for you, because it won't be. Just because someone else liked working with someone doesn't mean that you will. And you're the most important person when you're running the business, and the other people working for you too. The culture of someone's a fit, and ignoring that has cost me. But as I said, I'm starting to learn. I really need to hire another attorney, and thought was about to make an offer to someone, and then I just realized this person's not the right fit. They're just not quite the right person, and I don't think they would be someone that stayed even if we end up liking them. I just feel that way about them, that they would not be someone that stays, and I know it was the right decision.
Yeah, I remember watching you grapple with that decision in one of our sessions.
Right.
And you're like, no, it's just a no. It's not going to work. And it's more work to go find another candidate, but it's work I'm willing to do.
That's right. It's always more work to hire and then have to replace them. And that's the most work you could ever go through.
Yeah.
No matter what the business is, that training and getting someone implemented, it takes time. It takes time.
So in your head, when you're budgeting, right?
Sure.
When you're budgeting for a new hire, can you take me through sort of the calculus that goes through your brain when you're like, okay, this hire is going to cost me X?
Well, I mean, in terms of calculating how much they're going to cost me, I have those numbers ready, the benefits, all of that. But I also calculate in 90 days, say for an attorney, 90 days, this attorney's not going to make me any money. I count on that. And I think for any employee, you look at 90 days, looks as if this person is not really helping my business very much at all in those 90 days, and kind of escalate it from there. And I know the numbers of how much this employee can potentially make for me versus how much they can bring in. And it's really, you have to be prepared to the first 90 days of your employee just being a loss, a complete loss. And can you afford to do that? But that's back to the hiring. You can't really afford to repeatedly go through those 90-day periods only to have the wrong person at the end of the 90 days. That's where it becomes very costly, because now you've paid a person for 90 days to have no great impact on your business, and no positive outcome from that. So,
and then God forbid you have to get another one.
Exactly. So in terms of support staff, we have our own model as a law firm, but if we look at how much an attorney can earn and should earn minimally when they come in, and after their 90 days and after their 6 months, and then look at after we pay them and all their benefits, how much is left over. And then that, then we know by our model that we can always afford for each attorney to have their own assistant, and within a certain pay range based on those numbers, and still have room to run a business.
That's awesome. I bet you didn't know that when you were 26 years old.
I did not.
Hopefully there's a 26-year-old listening to this that goes, wow, hadn't considered that. Need to build it into my model.
Exactly, which is why when I started hiring other attorneys when I was 28, that whole thing wasn't going very well. And I found out I made more money without them there than I did with them there, because I didn't have metrics in place. What did they have to do to pay for themselves, pay for their assistant? Having the metrics, your KPIs, they are very important, because it keeps on track as to whether you could afford this person or not.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great advice on how to model that out. Because now, in looking at the way you're running your business, you're applying all those lessons really consistently. You're running to great measurables.
Right. And although we are a law firm, we are business too. So I think a lot of people that are in professional services think you don't run that like a business. You have to for it to go well. And I think that's why I've seen so many law firms that have been solos and then combined and they got bigger. Almost all of them end up downsizing. And I think that's part of the reason why they don't plan for it like a business, like I did when I was in my late 20s. Just start hiring without any plan as to what everyone has to do for this to work.
Yeah, that's awesome advice. So now, what's the plan for the future? What are you going to do?
I plan to continue building over the next few years. Hopefully, I will continue to find the right hires that we need. I have also run the numbers as to what I think our maximum potential can be. There's only a certain market for our services. We've run those numbers. We are in the very fortunate position right now, and we have been since 2020, where we always have more work than we can handle. We, from both referrals and marketing sources, online marketing sources, we are overwhelmed constantly. We are in another pattern right now where we can't accept any new clients, and that is often our problem, which is a good problem to have.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm hoping to hire probably three to four more attorneys if I can find the right people. Open a third office if I can find the right person to fill that seat, and so that we will be at a firm somewhere between 9, 10, 11 attorneys. That would be the maximum point where we want to be. But we're just trying to continue to grow, improve, and continue the road that we're on with our culture. That's something that's becoming increasingly important, not just for our clients, but more importantly for the members of our firm. All the employees, really, culture is an important thing. We may be hiring and firing based on whether an employee meets our values, but they are really deciding whether to stay or leave or take a position based on culture more and more. More employees are asking those questions of not just what are you going to pay me, what are my hours, but what is it like to work here? What are the other people like at this office? Is it a team? And I felt really positive this morning after our morning huddle, where a couple of people gave shout outs just how much they enjoy feeling like they're part of a team, and that it wasn't like that where they worked before, that they were an island and this is a team. I think that's where we've got to continue. We need to continue to build that feeling and improve it, just constantly in an improvement and change mode. And I think that's where I need to stay, even when we stop growing in terms of numbers of employees, just constantly looking for room to improve. It'll always be there. The opportunities to improve will always be there. It'll never be perfect. It'll always be a little rocky when you run a business. There's going to be the times where it goes better, and then there's pitfalls. So always looking for opportunities to improve and not make the same mistakes twice.
That's awesome. What would you permit me to share your core values with our listeners?
Sure, you may.
Okay, because I use these as examples all the time because they're just so good. So the core values that you use to hire and fire, reward and recognize are the following: attentively dependable, compassionately assertive, and confidently skilled. And to those that are familiar with the OS, we always look for a set of 3 uniques in our marketing strategy. And the 3 uniques are attentively dependable, compassionately assertive, and confidently skilled. And that is just so cool, the way you did that.
Well, those are the things that are important in our business. It's important that we are that to our clients. It's important that members of our firm are that to each other. Right? It's very important that I know that I can rely on someone. Other people at our firm know that they can rely on their coworkers, but also that our clients feel that's the type of representation that they're getting.
It's awesome. That's why you have such a great firm and such a bright future ahead of you. I'm super grateful for your nuggets of wisdom and your stories. And this is going to help a whole lot of people that are, if someone's looking to make a first hire, please slow this episode down and listen to Susan's words. You have to map this out. They're not going to do anything beneficial for you for 90 days. Trust your gut. Do not make a bad hire. And if you feel like you've made a bad hire, get rid of them quickly. Right?
Exactly.
That's awesome. Well, Susan, I'm super grateful for you and for your time and for your friendship and for everything. And with that, this concludes this week's episode of the Founders Dinner podcast. For those looking to connect with Susan or maybe work for Susan, her link is going to be in the description. You better be a right person that lives by these core values. And this is Stas Balanevsky signing off, and we'll see you all next week.
That's a wrap on today's episode of Founders Dinner, stories of entrepreneurial wins, losses, and lessons. Once again, we've journeyed through the inspiring and challenging world of entrepreneurship with Stas Balanevsky, uncovering stories that illuminate the resilience and adaptability at the heart of success. Each narrative shared today is a testament to the unyielding spirit of our entrepreneurial guests, providing lessons in courage and determination. We hope these stories have not only entertained, but also inspired you. Whether you're taking the first steps in your entrepreneurial journey or are a seasoned leader in the business world, Founders Dinner is more than just a podcast. It's a community of learning, inspiration, and connection. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast for more insightful episodes and join our vibrant LinkedIn community to continue the conversation, share experiences, and connect with like-minded entrepreneurs. Until next time, keep embracing the entrepreneurial journey. This is Stas Balanevsky, thanking you for being a part of the Founders Dinner family. See you at the next dinner.